How do you build a villain who isn't just evil, but who literally rewrites the rules of reality itself? A being whose very existence is an act of war against the world. Well, today we're going to forge a monster from pure philosophy, fusing the radical self-creation of Johann Fichte with the nihilistic abyss of Friedrich Nietzsche to build an absolute villain. Okay, so here's our roadmap for creating this ultimate antagonist. We're going to kick things off with their core manifesto, their personal declaration of existence. Then we'll dive into the philosophical engine that actually powers them. After that, we'll explore the broken, tired world they want to dominate, the frankly sinister method they use to do it, and finally, we get to their ultimate terrifying promise. So we're not starting with some dry explanation or a backstory. No, we're jumping right in with a direct declaration from the villain themselves, the Sovereign. This is their manifesto, the statement that is the very foundation of their being. Just let that sink in for a second. I posit myself. That basically means I create myself from nothing. So this isn't just a claim of power over the world. It's a claim to be the source of the world. Everything else that exists, it's just a shadow they cast. This one idea is the key to unlocking the terrifying logic that's about to unfold. Okay, so where does an idea that radical even come from? To really get that opening quote, we have to take a look at the German idealist philosopher Johann Gottlieb Fichte and his whole concept of the absolute I. Let's try to break this down. For Fichte, you don't start by looking around and saying, oh, okay, there's a world out there. You start by looking inward and declaring, I exist. That powerful act of self-awareness, of positing yourself, is what brings both you and the world into being. So consciousness doesn't just see reality, it actually creates it. And this, right here, is where it gets truly chilling. Because if the self is the I, then everything else, and I mean every other person, every mountain, every single star, is just the not I. It's not a real, independent place filled with other real people. Nope, it's just passive material, an obstacle that the self literally invents just so it has something to test its own strength against. And that's exactly how the Sovereign weaponizes this philosophy. They aren't just being selfish or ignoring other people. In their worldview, all of humanity is reduced to raw material, like a slab of marble for them to carve their masterpiece on. It is the absolute most extreme form of narcissism you can imagine, but elevated to a metaphysical, reality-defining principle. But okay, even a will this powerful needs a world to act upon, right? What kind of stage allows a monster like this to rise to power? Well, that brings us to the backdrop of our story, a world that is just drowning in nihilism, and it's introduced to us by this grim character known only as the Soothsayer. What the Soothsayer is describing here is a civilization in total decay. This is pure Nietzschean philosophy. God is dead, and with him, all the old values, all the old truths, all the old sources of meaning, they're gone. And all that's left is this great weariness, an exhausted, broken world that has completely lost its purpose. And a world like that, it's incredibly fertile ground for something new or something absolutely monstrous. But here's the brilliant twist. Where the Soothsayer sees a tomb, a dead end, the Sovereign sees a treasure chest. This nihilistic void isn't a problem that needs to be solved. For them, it's the perfect empty canvas. It's a golden opportunity to build a brand new reality right from the bones of the old one, with absolutely no one left to tell them they're wrong. So how does the Sovereign actually begin this massive project of tearing everything down to build something new? Well, their method is incredibly clever and deeply insidious. They plan to turn society's most cherished values completely against itself. The Sovereign hones in on what they see as a fatal weakness in the moral fabric of this weary world. They look at the people who preach for equality and justice, and they call them the tarantulas, and they don't see virtue. They see a mask for envy, for a deep-seated resentment of anyone who dares to be greater than the herd. And this leads to the Sovereign's twisted three-step plan. First, they actually encourage this call for equality, but they push it to its absolute extreme, inequality where everything is flattened into total meaninglessness. Then, they use that powerful sentiment to tear down all the old structures, gods, morals, you name it. And finally, in the chaos, the very ideas of good and evil end up strangling each other, leading to a total moral collapse, and completely clearing the board for the Sovereign. And just like that, all the pieces click into place.
You've got the self-creating I from Fichte, acting on the nihilistic stage of Nietzsche, and using society's own virtues as a weapon. It all comes together in one final, world-shattering decree from this self-made sovereign. So, with the old world teetering on the edge of collapse, the sovereign turns to the sleeping masses below and makes their one and only promise. This is the synthesis of everything we've just talked about.
And there it is, the ultimate expression of this entire philosophy. The world, with all its people, all its suffering, all its struggles, it's not a bug in the system, it's a feature. From the sovereign's point of view, all of reality, all of us, is just the necessary fuel. The resistance from the not I is precisely what their soul needs to catch fire and become truly absolute. You see, by fusing Fichte's reality-creating ego with Nietzsche's post-moral world, you get a villain who doesn't just break the rules. They genuinely believe they wrote the rules in the first place. They're not just evil in the traditional sense. They operate from a philosophy that completely redefines existence itself. And that leaves us with one final and pretty chilling question to think about.